Hello people, we are Tottenham TV, Manchester United 2, Tottenham 0. Sim back from his long journey up north to Manchester, came back with 0 points and the captain out for 4 games and a left back out for God knows how long.
Everything I seemed like yesterday could go wrong just did go wrong yesterday in terms of the Spurs game, the results in other games as well. It was not a good day footballing wise to be a Tottenham fan, but I had a good day.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. I'm glad you had a good day because none of us did. You know, I was in here just going through the motions and it was just so frustrating, man. It was really frustrating. We'll get into the game in a minute, but give us a atmosphere check, vibe check. I saw the crowd was singing Mauricio Pochettino's name.
Yep.
I saw the crowd was singing Romero's right, the border shite, and then a few seconds later he gets sent off.
Yeah. You know, actually, obviously going into the game, before the game, I was chatting to a lot of fans before. Everyone seemed like fairly confident we're going to show up today and, so, you know, maybe we'll get a result. And
that was probably the first warning sign.
Yeah, probably. Everyone was quietly maybe the way we finished that Man City game just gave people that little bit of confidence, you know, turning up to Man United, who we have a good record against in recent times. Maybe we're going to show up and get a result. And it's also not easy to forget. Obviously, we don't forget it, but we have a little thing with United because obviously we beat them in Bilbao. So we definitely we're very keen to remind them of that during the game.
But not only did we beat them in Bilbao, they haven't beaten us since 2022. It's been a long run.
But in terms of just giving obviously the Man United fans a lot of banter during the game, we were constantly the away fans.
Yeah, we had bragging rights for sure.
Yeah, champions of Europe. We know what we are. 17th. I don't know how we won it in Bilbao. Just constantly. There was, and I think early before the game, as leading up to kickoff, and also for the first half an hour, the away crowd was absolutely brilliant. Even though, to be fair, even after a 1-0. You know, I think that we kept chanting. I don't know if you were listening on the headphones, but I thought they were pretty loud. And for a lot of it, the Tottenham fans were in full voice supporting the team. No boos. There was no toxicity, even at the end of the game. No boos or anything. I think maybe the fans appreciated the circumstances. 10 men. We did battle for a lot of the game to try and stay in it, and unfortunately, things went against us. Yesterday wasn't the day where I looked at it and think, yeah, everything's terrible. I mean, in terms of the team and everything, we played so bad, and, you know, Frank, what's he doing, and all this kind of stuff. I didn't really put yesterday on Frank. Obviously, I definitely lay a lot of the blame for what happened result-wise on Romero. But I think the team tried their best. They battled hard under very difficult circumstances against a United team, obviously in good momentum and good form. I didn't think they were anything special, but we just gave ourselves too much to do, didn't we, with the red card and what position that put us in, and then the injuries as well. We picked up another injury with Doggy, and we have a mountain to climb, didn't we, in the game. But in terms of the fans, I thought they were brilliant yesterday, absolutely brilliant, top notch, great away atmosphere, constantly supporting the team, constantly singing. I don't think the team could have asked for better support yesterday, to be honest.
Well, look, this is the Spurs away fans in a nutshell, man. Always turn up, always support the team, and brilliant fans that have been beaten up all season and all of last season, to be fair, as well, and still turn up in their droves and still back the team. So that's great to hear. In terms of the game, obviously the lineup got announced. I think everyone assumed it was going to be a back 3. It wasn't, and Paulinho was in midfield, and we went for a back 4,
which I think was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I think for the opening half an hour, I would say United was slightly the better team. They probably created the better chances, but we were well in the game. And, you know, we had our moments as well. And I think the first half an hour went in waves a little bit. United were dominating the early stages, then we came back and dominated for a little bit, then United dominated a little bit. And look, I think anyone was in the game at that point. It was it was fairly even. And I think, you know, Spurs looked like we came out to play a little bit, and you know, you just can't account for what happened with Cuti Romero. It was just so frustrating because, on the back of those comments in midweek, everyone's saying, "Oh, what a hero!" Speaking for the fans, my captain, all this kind of stuff, talking about how much of a disgrace it is that we don't have enough players. Well, now we don't have him for the next 4 games, and he needs to I thought a year ago, last season, the year before, we were talking about Romero being like, all right, look, he's actually towing this line really well, not being overly aggressive, but still being aggressive enough to compete in games. And I thought he was doing really well from that aspect after, a couple of years of bad moments that we saw from him. But this season it's crept right back in, worse than ever, to be honest. 10 yellow cards, 2 red cards. He's now our most ever player in the Premier League, or level with Yunus Kabul, most red cards in the Premier League era. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realise he got sent off. So what
4 red cards
for Tottenham?
Yeah. I
must
think
have been a lot less games.
Probably. I think a lot of them were in maybe the latter stages when he was kind of done. Kind of Yunus Kabul in the last couple of years. But anyway, Romero and Yunus Kabul hold the record for most red cards for Tottenham in the Premier League era. That's 4. 6 altogether, Romero, since joining the club. I mean, what can I say? He ruined that game for us. He really did. And look, I thought there was a couple of decisions afterwards that, were a bit poor from Frank. But in terms of that aspect, you're well in the game, you're competing really well against the Manchester United side that are banging form, and then that happens and it throws everything out.
Yeah, there's no two ways about it. As much as I love Romero and I'll defend him, he ruined the game yesterday. He cost us because, as you say, I think the early exchanges, I wouldn't say we were brilliant, but it was an even game, and I think we were popping it around a bit. They were popping it around a bit. The game kind of went a bit like how I'd thought. Like, we were trying to obviously engineer good quality chances, and we were trying to find those little moments in the box. Obviously, Gallagher had a shot, didn't he, early on the game, which nearly,
should have scored.
It would have been a difficult goal, I think, wouldn't it?
I think he should have scored the one there with Gallagher at the back post.
Oh wait, I don't remember that one. I'm
talking about must have been after the red card.
I think Xavi put a cross into that near post. He kind of tried to volley it across the face of goal, didn't he? And it was a pretty easy pick up for Lamens. But what happened with United was exactly what I expected them, given how confident they are at the moment and the players they got. They're so confident and in their momentum, they're just going to try things. So as soon as Cunha picks up a yard of space outside the box,
what an effort that was!
Goal. Casemiro had an effort at goal as well, which forced a good save out of Vicario. Like, they were trying things, because when you've got good players like Cunha and Bruno, whatever, they've got these players where you give them a moment, they can produce some magic, and they know it. And when they're confident and they're not got a manager drilling in their head, okay, you can only shoot at this point or whatever, like, they can kind of feel the moment, and that's what they've been doing in recent weeks. And obviously, it's been they've been getting goals out of it, and that's what they were doing earlier in the game. And they were looking like trouble, obviously, early on. They probably had the better chances, but yeah, Spurs definitely were in the game, and we were looking confident. Obviously, Gallagher was playing in the number 10, wasn't he? Was it a 4-3-3 or Gallagher?
4-2-3-1. I think it was.
Gallagher was a bit further forward, which is funny enough. Apparently what Gallagher was supposed to be playing in his first game before Paulinho picked up a late injury. So maybe we're going to see that more going forward.
I didn't mind him in that position either.
I think when it comes to how Frank wants to play, him making those late runs and him... I think that's what he's very good at, obviously, making those runs in the box, untracked and whatever. And he was finding a bit of joy. He had another moment where I think Lamens gives him the ball, and he, could he have shot open goal, but won the foul anyway. That obviously a bit harsh. But anyway, as you say, we're in the game. There was one early tackle as well from Romero, which I thought he got the ball, and the referee blows up for a foul.
He did get the ball.
And I was like, okay, why is he blowing up that? That was frustrating. And then, obviously, the moment with the red card. Now, I've analysed it a few times. I've watched it over and over again. The first time I saw it, I was like, is that really a red? And then there's definitely another angle where you see Casemiro's ankle roll over. And look, he can't have any complaints, Romero. Although what I would say is very similar in terms of what I'll say about the Xavi red card, is you are going to see challenges like that not given a red this season. And it's very frustrating with the consistency. And in fact, it happened within a few hours. Brian Brobby has a very similar challenge on an Arsenal player, and there's no red card given. And I think it's one of those where it's 50-50 in a sense that if the referee pulls out a red card, he can have no complaints and it's not going to be overturned. But it's also one he could have given a yellow, and maybe VAR doesn't get involved, and maybe we just move on with the game. But I don't think he can really complain, Romero. I have a bit of sympathy in the sense that I don't think it's just like a strong challenge. He's obviously trying to clear the ball with it like forcefully, and Casemiro just nips in. He gets obviously he misses the ball, gets it wrong, and rolls over on Casemiro's ankle. It's not a good challenge. I
don't really have any sympathy. I have no sympathy whatsoever. I thought it was a stonewaller, in my opinion.
I don't think it was a stonewaller.
I think it was. I think it was studs up in the ankle. In this day and age, you can't make those kind of challenges. It's a common theme that we've seen with Romero. Second red card in the Premier League. He could have easily got 4 red cards in the Premier League this season as well.
Yeah, the other red card wasn't for tackles, was it?
Regardless, it's the same thing that keeps happening. It's the same thing that keeps happening. Overzealous.
Tackles are a common theme. That I'm saying the other red card wasn't for a tackle.
Fine, but these kind of moments keep happening with Romero. He puts us under way too much pressure in games. And, he could have easily be sitting here with 4 red cards in this Premier League campaign, which is crazy. And now in a real time of need, of desperation, that he mentioned in his Instagram post last week, that I commended, that he came out and said, he's left us without him for 4 games now.
Absolutely.
And we've got real problems at the back, like real problems at the back. Danso's out for the foreseeable. Dragshin's just coming back from an ACL. He's going to have to be playing probably 4 games in a row now. We've got Mickey van der Ven, who's fit, obviously. That's our only 2 fit centre-backs. We've got Destiny Udogie that's out now. We've got Spence. Is he going to be back for next game? Let's hope so. We got Porro out for the next 2-3 weeks, however long he's going to be out for. So our backline is massively struggling. This is something that we just did not need, especially from our captain and such a key player for us.
No, I completely agree with all of that. And no, the reason I say it's not a stonewall is for exactly the reason what I started. There will be challenges similar to that won't be given a red card this season, because I think it can kind of go in the balance with the challenge like that, because it wasn't that high. It was on the ankle, but he was going for the ball, obviously. And look, it just happens sometimes. I don't think it was like malicious, but it was reckless, 100%. There are some challenges like that which you're nowhere near the ball and it's just a malicious challenge. I don't think it was quite that. And as I say, there will be challenges like that, and we saw a few hours later,
it was
there
reckless.
was a challenge. Yeah, it was reckless, 100%. I think it had no complaints, but the reason why I say it's not a stonewaller is it wasn't one of those where 10 out of 10 you get a red card. It's more of a 50-50 one where sometimes you'll get it, sometimes you won't, and you can't have any real complaints about getting one.
I think more times than not, you'll see a red in those situations.
You saw Dallo have a knee-high challenge. It wasn't, VAR didn't put it up.
Yeah, and they should have, though. That was the wrong decision.
I'm just saying, there's just so many of those, like, we had one, Javi did get a red card, and there's so many challenges similar to that where they just won't give it. And it's just
regardless,
kind of what
though,
ref you have on the day.
Yeah, fine, opinion. That's fine. But, I mean, that can go for any single challenge in the Premier League these days. But I think with that, more times than not, it's a red card, and the right decision is a red card.
Yeah, I think...
So if the right decision is a red card, then it's a red card. What more can you say on it?
Yeah, I think he can't have any complaints. I think the right decision probably is a red card. I don't think he can complain. But again, I'm frustrated with the consistency of a lot of the referees this season when it comes to those kind of challenges where it's very 50-50. But anyway, in terms of like who's making the ball, I mean, like in terms of within a split second he doesn't make it, and then the challenge comes in. But as you say, Romero, it's a horrible look for him because he has been, as you say, railing against the board. He's making these statements. He's trying to, be a voice for the dressing room. And then he kind of, you could argue, has sails the dressing room down the river in a way by getting that red card with the situation we're in the game that we're in as well. He sells him out by getting that red card, and then and now he's missed the next 4 games, and he missed the last hour of this game when we were well in the game. So it's completely cost us 100%. We are in dire straits at the moment when it comes to players available and points that we need on the board. We're 2 wins in 16. So he's cost us massively. And for that to happen on the week that he's done a social media message, he's going to get criticism, and rightly so. He's going to get people on his back saying, well, if you cared that much, would you have done that? And, are you a leader? I do think some of the stuff has been over the top. Like, I think the journalists in the press conference asked about 3 times if Frank was going to strip him of the captaincy. I think that's just crazy talk, in my opinion.
They asked him before the game as well, to be fair.
They asked him before the game. But yeah, but they asked him, and he was like, no. They're like, oh, do you regret giving Romero the captaincy? Well, no. Okay, so you definitely are going to keep him as captain. Yes. Oh, you sure about that? Yeah, you think he's a leader? Yes. Like, I think this whole narrative, like, because he got a red card in this game, that should call his leadership skills into question. I understand what people are saying. Oh, he can be a bit too rash. Is this the kind of captain you want? But Some of the best captains the Premier League's ever seen have been known for getting, all the games ever seen, have been known for getting red cards. Roy Keane had 11 red cards at Man United. Patrick Vieira holds a record for the most red cards in Premier League history with 8 red cards.
I know, but it was a different game back then.
I'm just saying, Sergio Ramos had 18 red cards for Real Madrid. Was he a bad leader? Was he a bad centre-back? Like, I understand red cards aren't a good thing. I'm not saying the more red cards, the better. I'm just saying the fact that you're prone to a red card doesn't make you a bad player or someone who can't lead a team. Like, I think that narrative is absolutely like terrible, and I think it's a narrative played on Romero because a lot of people have this perception of him. Look, rightly or wrongly, there's definitely a perception of Romero of he's just a reckless defender who's a liability, who you can't rely on, and whenever there's something like this happens, obviously it plays into that narrative. And maybe at the moment it's hard to argue against it because this season it's 8 yellows and 2 red cards.
Yeah, but put it this way, he's missed 7 games through suspension this season, including these 4 games coming up, right? If he gets another 2 bookings when he comes back, that's another 2 games suspended with 10 yellow cards.
Yeah.
That's 9 games suspended in a season. That's crazy. That's crazy talk. When we talk about last season, I thought, he was doing so well with not going over the top in these kind of challenges. He picked up no red cards last season and 3 yellow cards. This season, he's already picked up 10 yellows and 2 red cards. It's a joke.
But you also got to look at how he plays. He plays on that edge, doesn't he? And when the margins are with you, I think he gets the right line of that edge. And when the margins are right now, the whole team's a mess, the club's a mess. Like, we're defending way too much. He's probably having to put too many challenges in than he used to. When those margins are going against you, all of a sudden, he's on the other side of that. My point is, what you just said is proof that he is capable of being a defender who is reliable and doesn't constantly just get card after card after card. Now, this season, he isn't. And do we analyse it saying, okay, look at Romero, 10 yellow cards or whatever it is, 2 reds, he's clearly a liability, he's clearly going to cost us? Or do you look at some of his other seasons and say, okay, he is capable of that, how do we get that out of him? Now, a lot of people will turn around and say, look, just ship him off. He doesn't want to be here, and let's just sell him. He's a liability anyway, blah, blah, blah. I'm of the other opinion where if you can get into Romero and you get either a different manager or a different way of playing or, get the circumstances right, I think he can be an absolutely fantastic top centre-back who will be very difficult to replace and very difficult to get better than. And I think on his day could be one of the best in the division, and especially in big games and like big moments, he can be the difference for you. And we've seen it so many times.
I do.
So that's how I see it.
I do agree with that. I mean, I don't have many complaints about what you just said, but I think what really puts apart the good players to the world-class players and the great players are, key consistency. No matter what's going on around you, you keep up those levels week in, week out, no matter what. I feel like with Cuti Romero, when the conditions are right, when it's a big game, when everything is working in tandem around him, he's unbelievable and he's such a great player to have. But way too often, when the conditions aren't right around him, he kind of loses concentration sometimes and he doesn't help himself with the consistency levels. That's how I feel with Cuti Romero.
Yeah, but he's in a whole team where everyone's doing...
yeah, but he's supposed to be the best player in the team.
Yeah, I know, but...
And he's the one that's supposed to be the leader and holding up the standards.
You can't be perfect when the team is playing like we are, because he's going to be covering for mistakes. He's going to have so much to deal with. Like, right now, we are in the shit.
But that's the difference, I'm saying, from the world-class players to the great players.
In this team right now? You think, because I'm saying Gabriel because they play in a similar way. You think you put him in the team, he ain't going to be making a bunch of mistakes? Of course he will be. You think I know Konate's making mistakes anyway, but I'm saying you put a defender like Romero's this kind of defender, right? He's proactive. He looks to win the ball back. There's 2 different types of defenders. You've got your Van der Vens, who's kind of like a cover kind of defender, who sweeps in behind. He's not the one who's being proactive, looking to put the challenge in. How often do you see Van der Ven proactively win a ball off a defender? He's not that kind of attacker. He's not that kind of defender. He's the one who's going to be waiting to see where the ball drops and then sweep up, or a ball goes over the top, he's running in behind. That's kind of his job. Whereas Romero's job is to be like a bulldog. He's the one, like, anything in the middle, he's coming in, he's putting in a clattering challenge. He's coming, either he's taking the ball, he's taking the man. Like, he's a proactive defender. And he's obviously, the spotlight's going to be on him when things are going wrong, because Van de Ven's not the one putting himself on the line with those challenges. It's going to be Romero, because he's the one, that's kind of how he plays. That's his job. That's why they complement each other so well. But when things are going wrong, Romero's going to be more on the spotlight, because he's going to be the one making the fouls. He's going to be the one where if it's caught out, he's the one caught out, right? Because Van de Ven isn't the one pushing up and making that proactive choices. It's going to be Romero. So when the whole team's not functioning, the focus will be on Romero. And any defender, in my opinion, in that kind of role, when you look at someone like a Gabriel or maybe a Konate, like those are the defenders who are kind of more the bulldogs in those back four. Right now, in a team where we're not functioning, they're the ones that are going to be caught out the most, and that's what I think we're seeing with Romero at the moment. And so we can all sit here and criticise him because he's not playing the best right now, but I think it's a consequence of the functioning of the team, and that's my opinion. And I understand if he considers himself, or people want to call him one of the best defenders in the league, he's got to show it week in, week out. But at the moment, I think you put a lot of defenders in our team at the moment, it's going to be hard for them to show it in that role. That's my opinion.
I don't know, man. I think if you put a Gabriel or a Saliba, a Van Dijk in his pomp, like these kind of players that all consider themselves world class, you'll see a more consistent playing level on a week-to-week basis than we've seen from Cuti Romero.
I don't know.
I just think it's the way Cuti Romero is. That's how he plays. It's frustrating. It's frustrating because it's something that we've mentioned about Cuti Romero for ages now. It's not just this season. His performances have always been kind of up and down, and sometimes more seasons it's been more up than down, and vice versa. But we need to see a more consistent level out of him. And don't get me wrong, I love Cuti Romero. I think, I agree with you in what you say. If we sell him, we're not getting a better defender through the door. I just can't see it. But for the level of player that he is and for the caliber of player he is, he needs to be showing a more consistent level, in my opinion.
I know, and I understand the focus is going to be on him today and this week because of, first of all, what he said, and then the red card, and he has cost us. No doubt about it, he has cost us massively, and we are now very short for the next 4 games. There's no two ways about it, and considering he is the captain, he has to hold a lot of responsibility. Apparently he did apologise after the game, but those words won't ring hollow with the situation we're in. We need points right now. We are 100% in a relegation battle, which we'll get into, but yeah, with the situation we're in, we can't afford for Romero to be out for 4 games. So it really is a disgrace, to be honest, that we're in that situation and that Romero has cost us so dearly in such a big moment. But as I've said, the focus is on him because of it, but I don't think he's anywhere near our biggest problem at the moment. And I think we need players like Romero. We need players with his mentality, in my opinion, right now and in this club. And I think people will have, just like with anything, people have an emotional response to what happened yesterday, and rightly so. He should come under lots of criticism for letting us down massively, 100%. But I think people making sweeping statements like, some people, he should never play for the club again, all this kind of stuff, stripping up the captaincy, it's way over the top. I think he does care. I think his heart's in the right place. I just think right now there are problems at the moment, and I think the consequence of the problems we're having is Romero's not at his best, and maybe he's disillusioned, and we've seen that with some of the comments. Maybe he's disillusioned with the direction of the club. But who can blame him? We're all disillusioned. And I understand he's paid a lot of money. He's the captain. He should hold himself to a higher standard. But then he's a human being, and I think the whole team at the moment is struggling, not just him. And he's going to be singled out because he makes public statements, so he should hold himself to a higher standard. Fair enough. But at the moment, we are 14th in the league with 2 wins in 16 games, and that is not all just down to Romero. He's not the only one failing us. But don't get me wrong,
he's part of it.
I'm not saying he is definitely failing us at the moment, right? But he ain't the only one. It's the whole team is failing. The manager is failing. Everything.
Yeah, but that's fine. But we're focusing on Romero right now. We're not focusing on the bigger picture.
Yes, but what's the conclusion of this conversation? That we should sell him?
No, definitely not.
That's my point. But that's what I'm railing against. That narrative.
I haven't seen the narrative that we should sell him.
There is. You go all over social media.
I haven't even seen it.
I'm done with Romero. He's rubbish. He's not a leader. He's not my captain. He's just a rash liability. Like all this kind of stuff. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about anyone who wants to criticise him for yesterday. Absolutely fine. And he did let us down yesterday. I'm talking about him as an overall player in that narrative. As do I want him at my football club? Do I want him to be captain? Do I think he could be a very good player for our football club in the right conditions? 100%. And I think any narrative that just looks at red card and says, because of that, he should be stripped of the cap. What do you mean?
But it's not just that red card, though, is it? It's not just that red card.
Well, we're talking about after yesterday. I know it's not just a red card, but fine, whatever. The red cards that he has had, because of that, he should be stripped of the captaincy. The journalist in the press conference asking Frank 3 times if he's going to strip him of the captaincy. I think all of that is nonsense, in my opinion, and way over the top.
No, I agree to a certain point. I wouldn't strip him of the captaincy. I wouldn't sell him. I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do that. But he needs to get better. He needs to get better. He's the best player that we've got at this football club. And like you said, the key point of what you said there, he needs to hold himself to a higher standard, a much higher standard than what he's showing right now. And with 2 red cards, potentially it could have easily been 4, like I've mentioned. He can't keep leaving us in the lurch like this. And that's what he's doing. In these games, he becomes a complete liability. Complete liability. And now for the next 4 games, we've got to play Arsenal without him. We've got massive games against Newcastle, that Crystal Palace game in 3 games' time. I think we've got Fulham, then Crystal Palace. I think that Palace game's like going to be a 6-pointer. Like, with the situation we're in, he cannot keep leaving us in the lurch like this. And yeah, it's not good enough. It's really not good enough, in my opinion. But look, enough of Romero. I think in the first half an hour, like we mentioned, it was very even, but I did feel like Man United were popping it around a lot crisper, a lot smoother than us in those opening 30. But once the red card happens, I thought Frank made a really bad decision in taking off Odegaard for Dragoshin. And at the time, me and Stel were both saying it. It's just like, out of everyone you take off, why Odegaard when he's the only one? You know when you're down to 10 men, man, you're going to push up a little bit more and there'll be a bit more space in behind. Odegaard would be the only runner that we had in that front line that could actually breach the back line of Manchester United. So why take off Odegaard when you're down to 10 men? I just don't get it.
I think that was quite an easy fix as well. You just drop Palini in the centre.
That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying.
I don't understand like why he wouldn't think of doing that. And it's not like they had like a physical striker on like Sesko or something where you needed Dragoshin there. They were playing Mbeumo up front. And in fact, probably Mbeumo would like to face Dragoshin more than he would like to face Palhinha, like in that kind of position. And obviously, Van de Ven, you still got him there, so you could have easily had just Odegaard on the left, Xavi on the left, Odegaard on the right, Solanke up top, Gallagher and Sarr in the middle. All of a sudden, he takes off Odegaard, puts on Dragoshin, and then we had no counter-attacking threat. Xavi was trying his best, but he had no support and he didn't have the pace to go by himself. Solanke, whatever you want to say about him, he's still not quite 100%. I think we can see at that moment, as much as he's come back and done really well and actually looked good for the circumstance, he didn't look 100% yesterday. Look, it's difficult for him up front by himself. I understand keeping him on because I think on occasion, if we can get the ball to him and he can just hold it up and try and bring some players into play when you've got 10 men or even just relieve the pressure, that's going to be valuable. But didn't quite happen yesterday. I thought, just taking off Odegaard didn't make sense to me.
I thought Maguire dominated Solanke, to be honest.
Yeah, he did. It was tough for Solanke out there, to be honest. It was a difficult game for him, and it kind of just neutered any threat we had that we could have had with 10 men, and we were just boxed in. I get it as well. We are down to 10, so it's going to be difficult regardless. And look, with United having the spare man, they're popping it around more confidently in this game than they have done in previous games because of their momentum and their winning streak. So I think they're more prone to like finding that spare man and finding that space than maybe they would have been before. But I have to say the goal we conceded was pathetic. It was really pathetic. Mbeumo giving all the time in the world to line up that shot on the edge of the area from the short corner where we fell asleep. And also the shot wasn't even that good. Like, I don't understand. I've seen a replay. I thought of it at the time. The shot was like 1 mile an hour. I don't understand how no one gets in front of that or no one puts a leg out or no one stops it or no one's even closing down Mbeumo when he's lining up that shot. And also Vicario, I don't want to criticise him too much because it does go through a whole sea of bodies and maybe he's either expecting a touch or a clearance, but it seemed to go through in slow motion, that goal. Like, that That wasn't the best strike from Mbeumo. How is no one stopping that?
Yeah, look, regardless of the strike, how good or how poor it was, it's a consistent theme that we've seen all season, just leaving men free on the edge of the box. And to do that, and when you've got Mbeumo there, who we know can put the ball in the back of the net and has a good strike on him, whether it was a good strike or not is irrelevant, because you cannot leave him free in that area of the box. It's just madness. We've seen it all season. Why do we keep persisting with it? It just wound me up so much. It really did. And that decision to take Odegaard off wound me up. Because I think taking Odegaard off just gave you no attacking threat whatsoever at all. So, yeah, I think Frank didn't manage the game too well, to be honest, yesterday. It also waited until the 80th minute to make even more changes, when you could see we were just sitting back waiting to die. And I know we had 10 men and I know it was difficult, but we had no ambition really to go forward whatsoever.
I will defend Frank a bit on that. I think when you are down to 10 men, you are away from home and the game was a 1-0. As long as it stays a 1-0, you've always got a chance.
Yeah, but we were lucky for it to stay at 1-0.
Yeah, we were, but we weren't giving away too many clear-cut opportunities. Vicario did have to make a lot of saves, but a lot of them were just from shots from outside the box. I understand.
Yeah, but shots can go in from outside the box.
Yeah, but you were down to 10 men.
Especially Manchester United.
Yeah, I know, but you're down to 10 men. You've got to restrict them somehow. And if you restrict them from outside the box, then so be it. But you've got one less man. You can't play a perfect game. You have to sacrifice something. And
you can play more of a counter-attacking game, though, and you need Odegaard for that. And
100%.
we didn't. We had no threat on the counter-attack.
No,
whatsoever.
that I'm sure that was down to Frank. I'm sure he wanted to be a threat on the counter-attack, but he didn't set us up to do that. I don't think that was the intention, to not be a threat at all or like have no threat. I think the intention was get the ball onto Slanky, try and bring Xavi into play, try and get some runners at points with Sarr and Gallagher running beyond him when we can, and try and get something, but we weren't able to do it. We just weren't able to counter them effectively, and we should have had an Odegaard there. Maybe that could have got us up the pitch more. I'm not saying Frank got it right. I'm just saying in terms of that tactic, to just keep it tight, keep it maybe at 1-0, and then last 10 minutes just have a bit of a go and try and get a goal and try and nick a point. I've seen a lot of clubs do that, like in when you are down to 10 men. It's an understandable tactic, not one I like or enjoy, but I understand it. I don't think it's like a terrible thing. I was listening to you and Stel talk about it after the game, saying, look, against Liverpool, we went for it with 10 men. In this game, we didn't. But actually, you look at that Liverpool game, we didn't really until the last 10 minutes. That's when we went for it, and we obviously nearly got back in it. But you got, unfortunately, to defend Frank a bit on that occasion, when you are down to 10 men, you do have to pick your moments, really. You can't just have a tactic of we're just going to throw caution to the window. Or you can, but knowing Frank, it's a very risky strategy, and you could very easily find yourself 3-4-0 down very quickly before the game's even over. So I don't think it's a bad tactic, but what happened on the pitch is we made those subs to come on, right? Then that was the point. We're going to have a go, right? Moani comes on, Basuma comes on, Tel comes on. I think that was just before 10 minutes to go. I think if that was Frank saying, okay, we've lasted this long. And to be fair to the team, I thought they battled well. I actually think they were fighting to keep the score down. And I did think they battled. I don't think it was a case of we were just out there waiting to concede. I did think they battled quite hard, but you're down to 10 men. You're going to concede chances. You're going to concede shots. You're just going to have to get through it. And I think they did. And I think they did quite well for a period. And then once those 3 subs came on, within 30 seconds, they scored, right, didn't they? After those subs.
It was, about 20 seconds, yeah.
So the game plan is then completely out the window at that point, because you've just made the subs to get back in the game when the score's still at 1-0. You're like, okay, we've got a chance here. And then when you conceded it within 30 seconds, then the game's done, really done, and you can't really do anything. And I really felt for Frank a bit in that moment, because he's just made the subs to try and do it, and then it goes against you. So for me, when you're down to 10 men, look, I think Frank didn't manage it perfectly at all, but there's only so much you can do, I feel like, when you're down to 10 men. You've got to try and do the best of what you got. And you picked up an injury with a doggy, so you've got to put Sousa on as well, who looked okay, but look, it's still a 19-year-old kid making his debut.
He got skinned at one point in our box, completely skinned. But look, going forward, he looked like he wanted to go forward. He looked like he had a bit of pace about him to run down the flank. So look, he's going to need to be called upon over the next few weeks. He's going to need to be used. So let's see how quickly he can acclimatise to it all. But yeah, we just needed to keep a runner up front, and I think that would have done us the world of good. It would have kept Man United second-guessing a little bit down the other end, and we would have been able to play those long balls a bit more successfully. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Frank took him off, and I think it nullified us even more than we were going to be nullified without him. So I think Frank was a big reason why we carried little threat, particularly in that second half. I think as well with Javi, I think if anything was going to come, it was going to come through him, and he probably looked like our biggest spark throughout the second half. However, I did think there were a number of times when it looked like Spurs could have got on and does something, and he picked the wrong pass, or his pass was a bit heavy. There was this one moment when Javi had it on the left-hand side of the box, about, I think, 30 yards out or something. And Conor Gallagher was making a brilliant run on his right-hand side, and he was pretty much free. And he goes and plays it to the left-hand side to the wing to get across in the box. And I was like, it's happened a few times, a few similar situations like that. So
that's probably Frank instruction.
Yeah, whatever it is. But Javi, if you're on the pitch, you've got to pick the right pass, and you've got to, have the right weight of the pass as well.
I thought Javi did well yesterday.
I
was impressed with him. I thought, considering we were down to 10 men, I was watching very closely, and he was playing it so much quicker than he usually does. I don't think he was losing the ball as carelessly as he has done. The fact we were down to 10 men, he tried his best. He tried his best to be a spark and get us in the game. He had a nice shot as well from 25 yards after a mistake, I think it was from Luke Shaw, which was a decent effort, went just wide. Had a brilliant piece of skill, I thought, on the touchline from Maguire in nutmegging him. I thought it was unfortunate nothing came of it, because that was a really great piece of skill. But I thought Javi, under the circumstances, actually played pretty well, and he was keeping the ball really nicely, got us up the pitch a few times. Obviously, look, you're down to 10 men, you're going to have limited time to go forward, and if you pick the wrong option, that's just one more occasion where you have an attack and it goes to begging. So there's going to be frustration with it, but I think he did pretty well yesterday.
He did okay. Like I said, in terms of our forward options, he was our best player that we had out there, for sure. Like he was a lot better than Solanke, a lot better than anyone else that we had in the forward line. But I was just a bit frustrated in those moments, because those moments are going to be few and far between, and you need to make the right decisions. And if you don't, the game's going to pass you by. If you do, you got a chance to do something in the game, and obviously that didn't happen. But yeah, look, I think, in my opinion, we were waiting to die for the majority of the second half. The second goal didn't come, and at that point, we're still in the game. We're still massively in the game, and it was just so unfortunate that they score 30 seconds after the changes. And I mean, this has happened so much to us in recent years. I remember this happened weekly under Jose Mourinho. Do you remember, every time we were looking like we were in the game, and Jose makes the subs to go for the killer blow, and then 2 seconds later they score. And that's exactly how I felt yesterday.
It would either happen like the sub would be on the touchline and then would concede as they're about to come on, or just as they come on, we concede just after. Yeah, it's happened a few times, and that's got to be so frustrating as a manager, because you're just about to influence the game, and then the game state changes just as you're influencing it. And from that happens, there's only so much you can do.